Talk It Out, where we talk it out. My name is Duryea Rashad, and I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Now, if you haven't already done so, be sure to like, comment below, subscribe, and share with your friends. Now, Talk It Out was created as a safe space where people of opposing viewpoints can have a healthy and productive dialogue in a respectful way, keeping in mind that it's not always about being right or wrong. Sometimes it's just about listening and being heard. Okay? So first, I would like you to give a warm welcome, a socially distant one, to my panel. First, we have Kiana Shelton. Now, I got these credentials, they're intense. So we got a Bachelor's of Arts in International Relationships from Stanford and a Master's of Public Policy from Michigan State.
No, not Michigan State. That's the worst. University of Michigan. Go you, not Michigan State.
From
you don't have people coming for me.
Okay, we have Alice McNeil, who's a literature major and a budding film director. And me and her.
His best friend.
And my best friend, all the time. Tamara Lovett, who got a a BS Ed in theater education, and she's got a master's in special education. Tamara's also an entrepreneur. She runs a company called Center Stage Education and Consulting. Basically, right now they're doing summer camp virtually for kids, which intertwines the arts and also education, right? Tamara, so you're tutoring for education and right, perfect.
And it's Tamara Francis.
Tamara Francis, I said love it. That's her maiden name, Tamara Francis, my bad. And she's also got a YouTube channel called the Mompreneur Plug. It's really good. It talks about the struggles of being both a mother and an entrepreneur, self-care and caring for others. It's a really good network. Check it out. And okay, so my cousin right here, Marlo Gregory Sr., he's my cousin. He's a father, an amazing father. He's one of the best father figures I have ever seen, you know? He gave me a lot of information about what it means to be a good father. So if you see them kids running around in the background, those are his kids and his grandkids, because he's that kind of dude. And Julian, who's got a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science and Math. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, our main topic is going to be about fear of failure, because it was really important to me to touch on how that can be crippling for certain people, because all of us, and maybe I can't say for sure, but I believe all of us have dealt with failure at some point. So I want us to be able to talk about that and how that's not a bad thing and how we can turn that into a positive. But before we go into that, I always like to do my check-ins with everybody. So what we do is we talk about quarantine, what you're learning during quarantine, how you're feeling today, whether you want to talk about the riots, whether you don't want to talk, whether you're tired of social media, whatever you want to talk about, okay? So we'll go one by one. And let's start with Tamara.
Well, thank you for checking in on me. That means a lot. Honestly, where I am right now, I've been taking a break from social media. The only time I really get on is to promote my YouTube channel. But I've taken a break just because it's just become a bit overwhelming. And for some reason, I feel like my generation and the ones under me feel like you're not woke if you're not posting on social media. That truly bothers me, because everybody doesn't use social media as their platform. There are a lot of people who are saying things, having conversations that's just not happening on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And I feel like a lot of times people in my generation and younger feel like if you're not saying anything on social media, then you're not active or you're not involved or you don't care. And so I had to take a break from that because it was just a bit overwhelming, just everything, not even just current issues as far as like everything with the police brutality and the protests and the rioting and COVID-19. For some reason, we didn't forgot about COVID-19 too, but it's still out there. But I just personally just needed to take a break because I do deal with anxiety, and there are certain topics, there are certain conversations that encourage that. And so I have to do what's best for me mentally and just take a break. So that's where I am, checking in with everything going on.
Okay, Tamara, I appreciate you sharing that, because I know there's a lot of people out there who definitely identify with exactly what you're going through, and people need to hear that they're not alone in that struggle, especially with the anxiety part on it. Plug, Tamara's latest videos were on anxiety and how to deal with anxiety, and us in the Black community, ethnic communities, any community, we need to start taking more attention, putting more attention on our mental health. But so let's check in. Marlo, go ahead. Let's hear from you.
Well, you know, since the quarantine, everything, what I really learned, man, is patience and compassion. Reason why I say that, man, Dury, I came up different probably from everybody on the panel, man. I'm from the street, you know what I mean? So, but what I learned, man, is how to have, just compassion for the sick, man. The elderly, check on them a little bit more, check on my neighbor. The other day, man, I seen two guys in my neighbor yard. I thought they were finna try to do a home invasion, man. And I spoke up. I said, hey, what's happening, y'all? Because the guy's sick, man, and that would have been on my conscience if they would have broken into his house and hurt him or whatever, but they didn't break into the house, man. So I'm just learning how to really, have compassion, keep my faith in God like I've been doing. And, if I can help anybody, man, it could be a dog walking across the street. If I can help anybody, that's what I'm about, man. So I'm learning how to just network with different people, you know what I'm saying, and open up, man. If that makes sense. That might not answer your question, but.
No, it definitely does.
Okay.
And like I'm saying, it's beautiful because I know there's a lot of people, I think that's what we're seeing across the board right now, is people are realizing that before it was a mind your business type of thing. Oh, that don't got nothing to do with me, so I can't. Now it's like, no, that's my business because it's wrong, whatever it is. And we're seeing that happen. Everybody's not there yet, but we're seeing a lot of people be like, nah, I'm there. Like, I'm taking care. Your neighborhood is your family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you would want, if you weren't at home and a different situation happened, for somebody to do exactly what you did. So I absolutely understand what you're saying.
And then one last thing, and then I'll cut the show. And what I'm doing too, man, I had lost my uncle last week, man.
Sorry to hear that.
Month of February.
Sorry.
Month of February, I lost 3 of my family members on different sides, but that's another thing. What I'm doing, man, like to family who I haven't talked to in a while, man, I'm texting them, hey, I love you. Whatever the case may be, man, because what I'm seeing with my own eyes, time, man, you just never know. So what I'm trying to do as one person, as a single man, I'm just trying to reach out my arms, dude, to the community, to my family, my kids, just let them know I'm here for y'all, you know what I'm saying, that I could do, man, because, like I say, that's like 4 family members in 90 days. So, it kind of messed with my sanity a little bit, you know what I mean? So I just try to keep going on, keep my faith in God, keep pushing, dude.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you sharing that because, like I said, man, stuff you're going through, everybody's going through, and you going through it and making it through is going to encourage the next man to be able to do something. Kiana, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I think it's been long. Unfortunately, I do not work for myself, and I still work for white people. So I think that's been, bothering me lately is like there's this sort of weird idea among my whites anyways, and probably a lot, where it's like, oh, like the last 2 weeks we've had difficult conversations in the company, and it's allowed people to step up and learn, and like I've changed my perspective and this and this and this, and it's just been really great, like having people who listen and have conversations, right? Which I get is what we're doing here. But I also find that that's been weighing on me a little bit. I find it super annoying, as I said before, just because like white revelation and late coming revelation is at the cost of Black death. And so I think it's really annoying. It's like, oh, but like it was hard, but it was a good week. Okay, but like you coming to this transcendentalist point in your life, like a lot of people had to die, a lot of Black people had to go through anguish. We were out, writing blog posts and having these outside meetings and doing all the stuff that we 100% do not get paid for, so that we can stand up for our community, because you don't know how to act. So I will say I'm still just like, I would be lying if I said I don't still have like a little bit of just like residual anger. And I mean productive anger, righteous anger. It's just like I've been feeling slightly angry. On another unrelated note, which I think is hilarious, particularly what Marlo was saying, I really feel the family. This has allowed me to just be more connected with my family. My mother moved to Atlanta. She said she was tricked, but that's a whole other story we won't get into. But my mother moved to Atlanta by herself when she was 30 years old, and she never went back to Detroit. And so, like, you know, I grew up here, and I knew my family because I spent summers there. You know that. I went there every summer. But I think it's my first cousins are 20 years older than me. Like, they were at Notre Dame when I was in diapers, you know. So it's been really nice getting to know them and their kids and kind of doing that family thing. And I think this is just now, yeah. So, like, it's really cool because, like, I'm finally getting to know my first cousins, because they're 50, you know, and we're finally at the same place where we're you know, we're kind of in that same adult phase. So I will say that's been delightful, just learning more about them as people and what's important to them, and their kids who are, you know, just little grown-ups. So that's been really a nice side effect in between being angry at white people all the time. It's been really nice to interestingly enough, since I can't be close to them, we've just gotten closer in a lot of other ways. So that's been really thrilling. And maybe we'll say this for next week, but I also have been social distance dating, which I think we might say for another check-in. But
I'm breaking it down right now.
We'll save that for next time. But that's another saga. I've been social distance dating, and to not unsatisfactory effects, but we'll talk about it.
We will.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 10 years single.
I'm 32 years single. I'm forever single. Ain't nobody been. That's why I'm over here tripping, because I'm like, I would need somebody to pay my bills though, so I'm over here trying to act right. But I ain't never had no man, honey, and it's new to me.
So, Julian, let's check in with you.
Honestly, what was it? Tamara kind of hit it on the head a little bit as far as like social media goes, and like some of the socializing we've been doing these days. Because like I've been, at least for myself, I've been like trying to put out as much information out there as possible, and then, you know, trying to hold my own like circle of friends accountable and things, and like just trying to educate as well, like put out, you know, things like that. But it's kind of exhausting, you know, like it does get tiring, but at the same time, it's this weird pressure that I feel because, you know, we've accomplished so much in the past couple of weeks that it's a wave that we can't really afford to let die down, because every time we've done that, here we are, you know what I mean? This is how we've gotten here. You know, we had Ferguson back when Eric Garner was choked out and the whole nine, and it's like, okay, but that lasted a few days, and then, you know, and here we are back at square one again with a new set of riots, and it's like, well, maybe if we just kind of rode that momentum and really made a lot of change, you know, we'd be a little bit further along and stuff. So it's like, I kind of don't want to put it down either, you know, because I feel like it's something that we all have to just continue to contribute to. But I guess that's really where it is. It's just take your breaks where you can and then come back to it. You know, just don't actually put it down, but still take your breaks, kind of a thing. So I'm trying to figure that out myself. So I haven't been as actively posting as I was that first like week. But I am still trying to put out as much as I can, you know. Other than that, quarantine has been doing okay. I've actually, like today I've been doing a lot of learning, at least on like Native American culture and like their hair and stuff, because I'm kind of going to cut mine, which is a big thing because it's like 10 years growing. So I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do with it? Like, I kind of already knew, but now I'm like, let me kind of delve a little bit further into like the ritual behind it, at least, and like the meaning behind it and everything. Like, it's all stuff that I kind of already relate to, but I just wanted to be a little bit more informed about it, at least. So, that's my current quarantine project, is what am I gonna do with this hair? I'm gonna be like a whole new person. I don't know, like 10 years is a long time. So.
Okay. Hey, okay.
But otherwise, everything's all right. Otherwise, we're doing all right, I suppose.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. And
yeah, it's hot. It's balls hot. Sorry, guys.
Why are you cutting it because of the heat, or are you cutting it because of your situation?
It's more of a situational thing.
Okay.
But
we'll talk.
I'm actually Britney Spearsing it. It's pretty bad. It's like what I'm doing with it afterwards is whatever, but it's definitely a Britney Spears breakdown. So.
You're gonna start just gonna shave it off.
Yeah. I'm gonna braid it, cut it, and then shave it.
A little bit. Not questions. Okay.
And then you'll see me outside with an umbrella and a hoodie, knocking people out. But it's coming. Give it some time.
All right. So Alex, let's check in with you.
I feel
also,
like
your name actually says Alex today. It's kind of nice.
I'm doing so good. I've been kind of doing the same thing everybody else has, just communicating with your family more, reaching out to people, staying in touch, checking in on those who are, because I have a lot of friends that are, don't have a significant other, don't have kids, and they're just by themselves, and their families are in other states, and they need support too, so I try to call and check on them. I also do feel a sense of guilt with the social media situation, because I feel like for me, I'm more active, or I go more to Instagram than any other social media platforms, so I post there more often, but I know that I feel guilt, like, okay, if I don't get on Facebook today and I haven't posted anything today, or I'm not even on Twitter, but I feel guilt for not, putting my voice out on Twitter. So I just have to like calm down and realize that social media and social media activism is, maybe not my lane, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm not passionate about those things. I've also been trying to like delve into all the like Pinterest boards that I have, like all these projects that I've saved that I was like, I'm gonna do that one day when I have time. I feel you, Julian, on the hair. I decided to take some chances today, and
it looks good though. It looks so good. Let it out.
But yeah, so that's mostly what I've been doing, just to keep my head together and just to stay sane in all of this craziness. That's it.
Awesome. I'm gonna share. My share is gonna be a little longer than usual because I kind of want to touch on some of the stuff y'all said, but then I definitely have something that's heavy on my mind, which I'm gonna try to be as non-specific about it as possible. But it's really.
Can I just really quick say? I also wanted to say, Marlo, that was really admirable about like you were like, especially for the elderly in your life. You're like, oh, let me kind of get more in contact with them, especially now because like COVID and stuff, and like. We all know that it hurts the elderly a little bit more than the younger folk and stuff. But I think it's kind of really nice that you're like, let me check in on them. Let me make sure they're doing okay. Like the old people in my life. Yeah, right. I like it. I like it.
And we could all take a lesson from that, just because I feel like in this society, we undervalue our elderly.
Oh yeah.
Our elderly, we there's just always this frame of the children are the most important in the future. When you really think about it, that knowledge that elderly people have, having survived this war and this recession and this protest, and the knowledge, and and we need to care for them a little bit deeper. And so you're right, Julian, and I appreciate you for saying that. So what I'm really getting is like my perception is changing so rapidly every day. Like I just got out of jail. Then I went from there to deciding I'm not going back. I'm still on probation. I'm like, look, I want to start this business because I've been thinking about it. I'm sitting, my cellie this last time, I was vibing, just gabbing with him. And he's like, why don't you just do it? And I had like, all this bullshit, bro, just do it. And so now having to run this company, learning how to make decisions, not make decisions, but still be diplomatic and still be kind-hearted, and still having these forums that we've been doing and talking to all these people. Side note, everybody who's ever done or will do one of these videos, I thank you all, because it takes some you really have to pour yourself into these conversations so that, and you know the benefit of it. You're doing it for other people to do what we're doing. Like, we got 2 dudes from the streets, we got gay, we got beautiful, we got tall, short, you know what I'm saying? We want to do that. We want to show people that this can happen, and that's how it should be. There's no reason for us to be out of class. So I really want to say that this has been challenging me to think about other people in a way that I never have, because I'm a man, right? But I'm Black and I'm gay. So it's like, I feel sometimes that I'm never oppressive. I'm always oppressed, but then I'm a man still, you know? And I had someone tell me, just because you're not, you know, 100% heterosexual does not mean you're not oppressive. And there's privileges that I have still too. You know what I'm saying? Just because I'm a man. And that sometimes when you're the oppressed party in one situation, you forget that sometimes you do a little bit of oppressing too. And it's us as the individual to be able to discern when we're doing that and when we're not. And it's really making me take more time, we're talking about social media activism, to read. I'll be honest, before this stuff happened, I'll click like on your post. If I'll click see more, and if it's more than that much more text, I'm not reading that. I'm gonna click like and I'm scrolling to the next one. You know what I'm saying? But now I'm like, you know what? I really want to read this stuff because this is what we need to be doing. Just liking it for the sake of likes is no point. Use this as a chance to educate yourself. Kiana, I know. Use this as a chance to educate yourself and to get better. So yeah, I want to challenge everyone out there. And I know, because we have this scrolling culture, you just scroll past it. Yeah. At least once or twice a day, read what these people are talking about. They might be putting you up on game that you didn't know about. Hey, this politician you think is good, he talking about some XYZ. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if people paid attention to that more, to each other more, instead of letting this newscaster or this politician speak for us, it'll be a lot better. Because when you really boil it down, people don't really hate, in my opinion, initially. That's a taught behavior, in my opinion. So what I want to talk about kind of goes into that. And I want to be as succinct as possible. I'm trying not to use names. There was some things that came out about some old educators of mine, and they were being called out for being racist. Now, I had never considered these people racist. I just thought they were kind of mean. Because in my opinion, they bullied me the whole time I was in their educational facility. They straight bullied me, but it was because I was a diva. That's what they said. And I really thought that's what I was, even though I don't feel that way. I said, something I'm doing is coming off that way for these people. So I really took that to heart. And what's crazy about it is, after reading that article, I was like, and hearing all these other people, and now all these other students who were their students who were Black also were saying the same thing. I'm like,
now you know I'm about to go on a damn Google search, because
it was crazy, because I felt bad, for one. I felt bad that this is still happening to students. Remember, I'm 32 now. I was 18 then. I was a child still. And these people were educators. It was their job to nurture us, to be our parents while, you know what I'm saying, when we weren't with our parents. And they took that as an opportunity to bully, to marginalize, to take advantage of. These were some of the people that took our artwork. They took a show that I did and basically stood in my way every chance they could. And then after I left the facility, took my show, reproduced it, and made money off of it.
Wow.
Right. And now hearing this article, I feel so angry, because I feel like y'all should not be allowed to keep doing this to children. We were so lucky to have other educators there who made it their mission. And these were not white educators. Those were, but the ones I'm talking about right now, these were white educators. These were white educators that made it their goal to make sure that we had inclusive lessons in the classroom, that we were learning about all kinds of authors and all kinds of artists that were of all kinds of races. If it wasn't for those people I want to really name, but I don't want to give too much. If y'all know who I'm talking about, some of y'all know who I'm talking about. But those professors there, I really thank those professors because those are the people out there that stop this stuff from happening. Racism isn't taught. A racist man or a racist woman was at once a racist child, which means before they were a racist child, they were just an impressionable youth. They learned it. And that's where it's learned, because who knows how many kids those people influenced to be negative towards another Black person. I know I experienced a lot of people who were negative toward me because of that. So it really, I guess I want to talk about that firstly. I want to talk about parenting, teaching, and how important that is for us to make sure, because it's not just the police out here that are causing these issues. It's systemic, meaning not justice system, the system. Even teachers don't realize, maybe they don't realize it. I can't say that these people meant to do that. They might have been doing it as a response to their own experiences, not even knowing that they were being that way. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts and opinions on that. Anybody can speak.
Okay, I really like what you said, but I think that's really the inherent problem that we have with racism today, is that like we just haven't had that conversation enough with others. Like POC always has that conversation because we experience it all the time. So it's like, you know, it's always prevalent kind of a thing. But like now non-POCs are really starting to actually like think about it and talk about it and things. And that's probably what contributes to the fact that they're out there with us these days, which is not something that you would have seen 5-10 years ago, you know, they're not in the numbers that they are currently, you know. So I think it's just, that's one of the biggest problems, is that we have to really have an in-depth conversation with ourselves about it. Well, they need to have probably a more in-depth conversation with themselves about it, because it's like, we talk about how it's systemic and how it permeates almost literally everything. And we see that because we are the victims of it, but they don't see it because it's just who they, you know, they're thinking, well, this is just how we are, and this is like my day to day, and like I don't harbor that kind of feeling in my heart, and that's fine. But that doesn't, you don't realize how your learned actions are still contributing to that system. You have to really look at it and say, okay, this is not me. That's not what I want to be, and then you have to change.
Why do you think it's hard for people to, even when they're presented with that shit, you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey.
Well, it's a pride. It's always an issue of pride there. Whenever you're turning their heart and their mind in the right direction, it's the pride that each individual's, and that's always the block I find myself running into, is whether or not they're too prideful to set it aside and say, okay, what you're saying makes sense. Let me think about this deeper. You know what I mean? Like maybe bits and pieces I might not agree with, but you know, there's a core of truth in there, you know, to receive that truth that says everything that you are and enjoy contributes to this system, because a lot of things that they are and enjoy contribute to the system, and it's not something that they are at fault for, because that system was there before they were created, you know, before they were born, and it's just what they were learned into, the same way that we, the victims of that system, were just born into being victims of that system, you know. So it's like, it's just knowing that that's the place that you were born into, but is this the place you want to continue to be? Is this something you still want to perpetuate? That's the thing that we really need to change in them. But like, you know, it's hard to face that, because it's an issue of pride. Whenever we talk about a lot of things about racism, a lot of things that you hear back, often you hear the argument of, well, I worked hard for all the things that I have, and blah, 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 especially when you're talking about white privilege. And it's like, no one's saying that your effort wasn't there, but all we're saying is that you didn't have any hurdles to cross as far as your actual race goes. Like that didn't play a factor into how much work you put in. No one's devaluing the work that you've done, but you have to realize that you came at, you know, every other people are coming in at a handicap, and here you are 10 steps ahead just because you are.
Yeah, because I feel like in order, what just happened? Okay, in order to, yeah. I'm sorry.
Kara's in the building, that's all. Go ahead. She in the building.
There you go.
In order to acknowledge the handicap, they then have to and I get it. It's a double-edged sword because I understand. Like I had a conversation with we were both in the army together, and he basically was like, white privilege doesn't exist. And through the conversation, because I know, but he at the time he was 18 too, to be honest. But through the conversation, I got what he was so defensive because he's like, I don't hate you. I'm not racist. I haven't ever gone to somebody and been like, hey, because I'm white, help me out. And I'm like, and so I got his mindset of it, his concept of it, but I was like, but that's not what white privilege is. White privilege ain't asking for the hookup because you white. It's that you don't have to even ask for the hookup. It's just gonna be given to you.
Right.
And they go ahead.
I think, I truly don't dislike white people. I got the 5 white people I like, and I like them very much. But this is my whole thing that I take issue with. Because again, I think I said this, like, I learned about the Holocaust when I was 10. Nobody needed to tell me that was bad. I didn't need no more data. And yet we're constantly faced with this idea of like, people have like, oh, there's this active unlearning. Yes, we're all unlearning. Black people, you can't talk to me about unlearning. I'm a Black girl from Georgia. I'm unlearning horrible shit every day, right? My whole thing is, the reason this is so difficult inherently for white people, it is pride, but I want to take that a step farther. It is a hesitance to give up power.
You're not the first.
And the hardest thing to tell someone, particularly a poor white in America, is that they yield power because your richer white brother has so completely deceived you into thinking that you are like me and you are not. And so this is the fundamental thing. And so I saw a Twitter user, and it was perfectly illustrative of how wild white people are, because it was this white girl who went to school with, and she had posted something about this Twitter user thing. And it was essentially like, white people, you have to be okay with the fact that even as you are actively moving from just like not racist to actively anti-racist, as you are getting woke and making strides, you just have to be okay with the fact that some Black people ain't never gonna like you. And when I tell you this little white man came down, one of her little white friends came down to the DM and was like, this is moral and wrong. And like, if I haven't done anything to someone, why shouldn't they? Sir, this is the crux of your problem. You think that because you're trying your best, that the onus is on me to forgive.
Right.
The onus is on me to accept that you, an individual, not a systematic group of people, is still oppressing me. You are associated with them. Like, you are forcing me. That's not how forgiveness works. Like, you can apologize. It is up to me to accept that apology and establish whether or not it is significant and if it is welcome and adequate recompense. So that's my whole thing about this. Like, yes, it hurts. It hurts to be told your cracker grandfathers did this and you reap the benefits. It's like you get great. That's even a racist term, grandfathered in. But I mean, you get grandfathered into a lot of this stuff. But it really comes down to white people are not ready to yield their power. They are very ready to do performative exercises like wash niggas' feet and cut off their hair and hold it great. But are you shifting power? Mm-hmm. Are you willing to say, this thing that allows me to hold people in oppression, willingly or unwillingly, I yield it? Am I transferring that over and giving that power to someone else to make decisions? And what you will find when you dig way deep down into that is that they absolutely are not, and not willing to do it. But that's what has to happen.
And the reason I said that, someone said that before, because we were having the conversation, one of our earlier conversations about the power differences between men and women, that point was made too. Men don't want to give the power to women because once they give the power to women, what are women going to do? Is like, once the oppressor allows the oppressed room, they're afraid that they will be treated the same
the way that they've been treating people. It's funny.
Y'all think,
terribly funny.
But we're not like that though. 400 years
Exactly.
has proven that we are not vengeful.
We're not.
It's ironic because, and then the other thing is also the example of these riots and the looters and things. To be honest, like the protesters, we have been the least weaponized out of, and considering how big these protests are, we have been so, like, without any unarmed. We've been so unarmed disarmed in this whole thing. And here we are meeting riot gear and tanks and SWAT teams and FBI agents. Like, you know, it's not even just your local municipalities that are being brought out to police these things. It's like, you know, it's actual federal task force and things like it. They're pulling out all the stops to make it so intimidating. And it's like, but what are you being intimidating for? You're meeting people who are entirely peaceful. You know what I mean? That's the front that you're looking at here.
I think I want to ask you about that, because it leads me into the idea of censorship. Because I saw this one video of this white guy. You might have seen the video where he was like in the middle of all these protesters. He was literally smacking their signs down and all this. Y'all know the video I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, he's in like a red shirt. He's wearing a hat. They knocked his hat off and stuff.
The
one that was on Jessica's page?
Yes.
Yeah.
That made me angry.
Oh, that was really rough to watch.
Because to me, when you're looking at protesters and saying, "Oh, why can't y'all be peaceful?" He was protesting the protesters violently, and apparently, I didn't see the video. I saw the video. I didn't really look at this, but I heard one of the comments say that there was a policeman there somewhere and didn't stop.
Yeah, there was like two. Yeah, and he barely even. He was just like, "No, sir, you need to come over here." They're so.
Wait, what, Tamara?
At one point, he was chuckling.
The police.
Yeah, like he was trying to do the right thing and escort the guy off. Why? Because he was being recorded and because that's the right thing. Let me get him out the way. But he's literally stood there. The problem I have with the whole thing was if the roles were reversed and that was a black man going against white people who were protesting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
He just arrested him.
He would have been met with excessive force. Just like it didn't make sense to me that white people can go stand in front of the state capitol with AK-47s protesting about not being able to come out their house because there's a freaking virus going around. Are you serious? And then people who are peacefully protesting because a man was murdered in broad daylight. And it ain't just for George Floyd, but for all the other black lives that have been murdered in broad daylight, at night. It don't matter. They've been killed because of the color of their skin. It's just that simple. And for these white people to go to a state capitol and they are armed
with
I'm not talking about bricks and stuff. I'm talking about legit guns. And y'all didn't meet them with the same excessive force. Y'all wasn't bringing out tear gas. Oh, why? Because, you know, they coming up here, because they're white. Oh, they're just angry. They have every right. And then Trump, they're good people. They're just angry. But then the thugs were the looters and the rioters. I just couldn't get down with that.
Talk to me about Trump, and this is what I'm going to ask. Let me frame the question, because my personal thoughts towards how the politicians are acting right now. I get really frustrated with politicians being politicians. Like, we don't need y'all to pander to us. We want change. We don't.
Really fast, as Kiana was talking about, like, performative versus actual, like, change and things like that. One of the things that you, as you're talking about that, like the Kente cloth.
That's what I was about to say.
Like, I was like, I don't care if you're if you're kneeling for fucking 10 minutes. What I want you to do is go back into that goddamn fucking auditorium and make some goddamn policy changes. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see fucking kneeling for 10 minutes. Nobody cares about that. I care about the actual policy.
That's the deeper question. Is like, it's not just Trump's fault, bro. It's not. And I think that's hard for people to just go ahead. It's easy for people to just hop on Trump. Look, Trump's is just, he's just incredibly Trump. He's Trump. He's a lot of that all the time, right? We get it. He's Trump. He's not my issue though, because Trump wasn't the president, but for 4 years ago. You know what I'm saying? He just became the president. Nancy Pelosi has been a politician longer than Trump. Mm-hmm. And for her to pull some shit like that, and somebody was like, "Oh, the caucus asked her to do it," she should have said no.
Hell no.
Right.
And the Black Caucus, don't get me started. I don't even want to get started because I'm like, yo.
Chime in and talk to us, Marlo.
Say it one more time, dude.
I said, hop in whenever you want to, Marlo.
Yeah. Cousin, we want to hear you, cousin.
I want to say, well, you know, it might be shifting away a little bit, but I'm gonna say this right here. You know, and I understand what's going on. I see it with my own eyes, but the thing is, as Black people, it starts in our own community. I'm gonna tell you what I mean by this right here. I mean, in the community where, you know, you got 95% black, they want to kick your door in. Okay, I'm gonna put it like this. We leave and go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, we get off 5 or 6 o'clock that evening. It's a group of guys. Now, I didn't see them before I left at 6 in the morning. I come back, they still out there, they hustling, you know, whatever. What I'm saying is, man, the change got to start in the community, man. You hear gunshots, man, at night, man. You know, these little kids, they don't understand what it be. They probably think it's a firecracker, but, you know, individuals myself, you know, it's a gunshot. What I'm saying, it starts cleaning up in the community, man, before Trump can take it serious. You know, this person, you know, I say this, I know I keep shifting.
No, just say it.
That makes sense.
I'm gonna be serious. It's a twist now. I can call some white people right now. I'm gonna keep it real. That'll move faster for me and give me what I need before I can call some black people. I'm saying
some black people.
Some black people. And I'm saying, I ain't saying that. I'm down.
What you're saying. But
I'm down.
Go ahead.
I'm down with my black nation all the way. But what I'm saying is, I'm looking more, man, right now as a character. I don't care what color that individual may be, man. If they got a good heart, man, that's what it's gonna be based on. And before all this stuff went down, like I said, I know some bad black people. I know some good black people. I know some bad white people. You know, every nationality. I even know some bad Chinese people. I mean, it don't matter what it is, but what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, man, we got to pull it together, man, before the world can take us serious. We got to come together. I put it like this, man. You got 5 million, it ain't got to be black, 5 million nationalities besides white. I think that's what they afraid of, how they protest and riot. It's just giving you a glimpse of, if we all come together, it'll scare them. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, I don't know, I can't put it in words, man.
Right.
No, I hear you. It's scary because.
Let me hop in on this real quick.
Go.
There's this concept. Now I said this book before, and I said the wrong author. It was Carter G. Woodson who wrote The Miseducation of the Negro, and in that he talks about the idea of blacks not trusting black business, right? So basically, when slaves were free, and I'm massively paraphrasing, when slaves were free and then they started to do their own stuff, there was this distrust that they instilled in one another, basically saying, if you go to a black person, they're not going to do as well. They're not, and that still exists today. Half of it's true though. And what sucks about it though is because of that being distilled in us, all it takes is one black experience for us. It's like, I ain't fucking with them black people no more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it's sad because instead of us, and that's part of systemic racism though.
Mm-hmm. And again, the reason you think that, which is why I'm like, nothing, everything, your cousin, my cousin, everything my cousin down here is telling us is the truth, okay? And I think what's important to remember is a lot of that, again, let me say this. Black on black crime is not real. It is a misnomer in order to detract from the fact that white people are not only killed all the time. So I'm not saying that. But intra-community,
Go ahead.
But intra-community hurt and those things that we do that inflict pain on one another, a lot of that comes from exactly what my concern, that fear, right? We live in fear of not having food on the table. We live in fear of not having a roof over our head. We live in fear of just not having. And it's very hard to live in an abundance mindset when we've cultivated this society of scarcity and false scarcity, right? I will applaud Black and brown people for sure, because we do have, which is why I was never, it was running to get toilet paper and all kind of stuff, and you couldn't find no food, no toilet paper. I'm telling you, me and the Mexicans was tight, because we like, look, we got free food in the freezer.
Exactly.
Them down the street. And I say this not being very serious, I'm going to look back, but like, when you see those people who are hoarding resources, it's white people who have not poured enough into their communities to know that they will be getting reciprocation in terms of the good that they put out.
Say
Right?
that. And that's a selfish.
We don't have that issue.
It becomes.
It's a, yep.
I'm sorry. It goes back to what Marlo was saying. It is.
Yeah, that's it.
It is twofold. Like, yes, as a community, we need to do better. However, it really comes down to an individual character. And that character is cultivated through community, which is weird because it takes a village to raise a child. But at the same time, once you're of a certain age, it is your responsibility to take charge of your own character cultivation, because you're at a certain age, a certain mindset, a certain wisdom to know that your character will affect the character of people around you, especially if those characters are children, which goes
And there's
original
There's
topic.
always a few layers of racism in there as well, that like systemic racism in there as well, that kind of always get in the way, because like we're talking about like being in the community and like not being able to trust even people of your own community over of another. And it's like, yeah, but that's because that community is already coming at a disenfranchised place, so they haven't learned to be more responsible and things like that. Like certain things are
it's really
different.
good at supporting one another. Let me use you as an example.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is dissension in every race. Like we talked about black. The reason I'm gonna try not to talk about this too much because this is gonna be our topic next week. So, but black on black crime is a misnomer in order to get us, as you said, to look at each other like it's only us. When you really look at crime, most crimes are acted upon by people of the same race.
Yeah, interracial.
There's also a lot of black support. For example, Black Panther. Why was it so popular? Let's be honest, because motherfuckers who ain't never seen a superhero movie in their lives was like, oh, the Angela Bassett in the movie? Oh, well, you know we got to go see that.
I got to go see Angela now and then. She's fine.
If it's not, Tyler Perry's success, even before he was on film, was because even though you can always debate his artistic merit, but what you cannot debate is that man's success is highly due to the community support. So it's a double-edged sword. Like, so what I'm saying is there's definitely support in our community, but there's also this idea that we have this dissension, which actually, let me see something. Okay, yeah, somebody want to speak on that? Because I just want to talk about black entrepreneurship.
I just think it's important to remember that, like, our diffidence with each other, our hesitation with each other is not an inherent distrust. It is one that has been cultivated. And I think that's just something to, like, keep in mind. Because we do this all the time. Now, you know good and well, y'all know y'all be playing, the Africans be playing with me sometimes, and I be like, y'all don't do this, my brothers, y'all be playing with me. But at the same time, like when we talk about, white, let me just say this, and I'm gonna stop. You ever heard the expression, the white man's ice is always colder?
I've heard that, but I still don't get it.
It's this idea in two parallel universes. Ice is ice, dirty. Ain't no such thing as more cold ice and less cold ice.
Dry ice is colder than regular ice.
Dry ice is cold because that's a sublimation. That's a whole different physical. That's physics. Get out of here. You know what? That's, you went to school, and that's why you're sedity. Be quiet. The white man's ice is always colder, and I think it's just a thing where we have to remember that we've been bred to sometimes play into our own inferiority, and that's why we have that scarcity mindset. That's why we have this fear of each other, and sometimes we don't treat each other with the care that's inherent to us. But that is a 100% learned and a cultured behavior. It is not innate, and that's all I want. We love each other.
Just to add on to that, I also think that that's something that a lot of POC don't admit to, but they should really.
Why are we saying that?
What?
I hate POC. I mean, you can say if you want to. I hate POC.
Well, I say POC just because it's not just black people. It's Latinos, it's
Right.
Asians, it's Filipinos. It's literally everyone who's a person of color who like kind of as
Latinos. I feel like when people say POC, it once again marginalizes our issues. because it then says everyone who's not white is treated the same, which is totally not true.
It's not necessarily treated the same. I just think that like anyone who's not white, who is at least raised in America, kind of harbors this, you know, that little bit of racism that.
I mean, there's racism, but it's like for Asians don't.
They still, they still feel it amongst themselves. That's my point. It's like a shame that you get that you inherit
to say
for your culture.
To say POC to me as a black man is insulting because it's like, no, Asians aren't treated like black men. Period.
So let me say this as a point of history, but also a point of like both of you are like very much correct in your assertions. So people of color coined specifically by black women to talk about black people. That's the first thing we forget. Like that was never even like women of color. That phrase was specifically meant to refer to black people and no other people. So that's the first thing. And it's you know, antecedent, right? People of color, whatever. That was actually a term specifically coined for black people. So when you're even saying it, like it is about other issues. Since then, obviously, it's been taken in people of color. There's nothing wrong with the phrase, but because you're right. Like I think people now are trying to add some more acronyms onto that, like non-black people of color or black indigenous people of color, in order to make those distinctions. But here's what I will say: it's utilitarian. It does help describe like this group of others that are non-black, and at the same time, I think maybe what I would say in sort of in support of Durier's comment is that like a lot of times sanitation happens when we say people of color. Like I literally went to school at the University of Michigan, 45 minutes away from Detroit, which is literally just down to black people. We'll be like, the communities of color in Detroit. Nigga, black people in Detroit. We don't need to, ain't nobody else up in there. Who else up in there? So it's very weird. So I will say, you know, use it, but I think it is important when we can acknowledge like specific experiences of black people versus other people that we try to use that language. But that was my highfalutin.
My only thing, I guess for this particular example that I'm trying to say is just like it's more is just people who aren't white. You know what I mean? We kind of, if you're raised and born in America, to be honest, you grow up with this culture of shame from, you know, of your originating culture. It doesn't matter where you're from, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Chinese, whether you're Japanese, it doesn't matter. It just comes with being raised in America because white nationality is kind of the norm, you know, is kind of the standard. So you kind of develop that shame inherently because you're not white nationalist, you know, and that's anyone who's just not white. You know, that's why I say POC.
I feel like it is getting. I know why it's getting the response that I'm getting, and I know why other people are getting the same response. The issue is this: when you say POC, and it kind of couples that struggle, you have to remember something about non-whites in this country. Only one group of us came here not by choice.
Sure.
And so to me, when that term POC, when it starts to talk about Asians, and it's like, no. Like, an Asian person in this country decided to come. Their ancestors chose to come over here. Hispanic people, like, their ancestors came here. Now, granted, Hispanic people
we're a mix because we were kind of part of
that
the
Mexi
people. We were kind of part of the people who were already here.
And Mapuche was already here, honey.
Even still, like when you talk about Spaniards and their whole thing, and that being a blending of culture, Hispanic people are a blending of cultures. And I'm not saying Hispanic people weren't like persecuted, but the idea of how we were brought here, how we were not only brought here, but then had our, like, Hispanic peoples had their cultures combined. We had our. Let me explain.
No, they destroyed the Native Americans.
They really did. They killed all of them. I will say non-black people of color is very good at sort of just like making a delineation. I will also say that, like, I think it's really important, like you're saying, like, we cannot conflate experiences.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter. Like the other day I saw some sign, it was like Latinx for Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, y'all are all about this erasure, aren't you? Because like Black people and Latino people, those are the same people. Like, I think there's this weird divorcing that like a lot of other
I'm gonna be flat out.
And I'd be like, that don't even make no sense. What's Latino lives for Black lives? We Black. Latinos Black.
I don't consider them because Hispanic people came here. Well, not the Spaniards came here. They mated with African slaves. I'm not mated. They had sex. They reproduced. You're right. They reproduced.
They raped them. Go ahead and say it. They raped them.
I didn't mean offense by using that word. But
you really think these black people was out here searching for? Look, hold on. Is the children out here looking for conquered pink dick? Well, nobody out here looking for that.
So the Spaniards came here with Africans and native people, right? But that's different than when you take. So that to me was a blending of cultures. Africans were taken, stolen. Their culture was snatched from them, and something else was thrown on them. Christianity, freaking their names were different, like all of that stuff. And now we're dealing with that pain still today because it's like, even still, instead of being a flat out, hey, yeah, we're sorry, we screwed up. Even still today, we have people who are like, our situation was us. And to take another person's struggle, like the Jews or Jewish people, like Hispanic people, like Asian people, we're all different struggles. And to just POC, I feel like that is almost the same as saying I don't see color.
Fair enough. I feel fair enough. I get you.
I mean,
I understand. I wouldn't say that their experiences are the same.
My bad.
I would agree with that statement. Yes, because I'm just making this. I'm not gonna hop in there. I'm just gonna let y'all talk. But no, I don't agree. I agree with the idea that there's this group of all of us are non-white people. Mm-hmm. But we're all different. We all have different journeys. We all have different struggles. I think all of these different groups were oppressed at one point, and are still being oppressed. But I think to say that we're all in one category, you can't. You just can't. Sorry. Like,
all have similar struggles, but the thing that's consistent is they all anti-black, and there you have it. That's it.
I mean, I don't know. I personally don't see. I see the struggles are all different in different ways. I don't think that a Chinese man can identify with a black man, or let me just say an Asian man can identify, or an Asian woman can identify with a black woman. I mean, even just in general, like, the stereotypes, Asian people are extremely intelligent. The Asian woman will probably get hired before the black woman. You know what I mean? Like, there are different. I just don't agree for all of us to be. And I just realized, since all of this stuff has started happening recently, what POC was. For a while, I'm like, POC. Right. And then I'm like, oh, but somebody's like, people of color. And I'm just like, when did that get started?
Right.
Okay. And like Kiana was saying, I've known about the woman of color thing, but like POC, that was new for me. But that also could be because I'm in a bubble oftentimes. Like, I figure out what different acronyms and stuff are when it's way late, and I'm like, oh, that's what that means. Okay. Like, for a long time, MUA stood for makeup artist. I thought people, and they would have their names on Facebook pages, like Janae, MUA, and their last name. And I was like, why do they keep saying moi? Like, we know it's you. Like,
I thought it was a credential. I thought it was something like, me too. I didn't know that.
I thought it was a house. I was like, this house is popular. Okay, great.
I thought it was like a credential or like a little company or something.
I didn't know. So when the POC thing came out, I was just like, okay, like, but even still, like, after Julian explained it, I was like, oh, okay, that means, because when they said people of color, I just thought black people. Ignorantly, I'm just like, yeah, they come on black people. Not even thinking about other people of color, because immediately my mom just went to, because that's the issue we're talking about right now, is Black Lives Matter. That's the main thing that everybody's talking about. So when they say people of color, and then most of the time when you hear white people using that, like, we need to support our POC, they're talking about black people. That's what they're talking about. So,
well, sadly, I don't think they are talking about black people. I think that's more
that's their way of avoiding.
No, that's their way of addressing black people, I guess, without offending or trying to be whatever you want to call it. But
I think what it is it's like, if we say POC, y'all, we can just apologize. We can do one blanket apology.
Yeah.
Instead of having to be like, well, we screwed y'all this way and we screwed y'all that way and we screwed y'all that, because if we make sure that it's not POC, then they have to address the action, not the overall. It's okay to say, I'm sorry for racism. It's another thing to say, I'm sorry we stole you from your mothers and sold your daughters and raped your sisters. You know, then they have to actually go in on what they did to everybody. And it's just easier to give a blanket Band-Aid. Marlo, you want to say something?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm listening though, listening because a lot of knowledge, my mind taking in, but I was stuck on this right here, man. I just seen a white man on TV the other day, like the older white men in this country, man, they know what went down. I heard a white man say, for the last 400 some years, black people, they built America. He was like, and we came and he was just speaking real. He was like, we came and stole it. We rearranged it. But really it was built off, they sweat tears, even with the white kids, the black nanny, they would breastfeed the white kids. So even with taking care of them to get their help when I was watching, I'm like, man, this one white guy out of millions, he telling you what it is. But, they're not going to confess. The other 4 or 5 million not going to confess to what he said. But that one white man, it was like, man, he admitted that, we stole everything. We took it from the Indians, the black people. We just, highway robbery, basically, you know what I'm saying? So, but the thing is, you can't keep pointing the finger to where
The white people.
you can't, you got to move on. You know what I'm saying?
Reconciliation is powerful. Like I feel you. It's powerful. Oh, that takes ability and working direct. That is a powerful thing. I wish there were more of that.
Well, in that vein, taking off of what Marlo said, I kind of want to launch us into our main topic of discussion tonight. I just started this. Tamara owns a business. All of us are professionals. I really want to talk about, first I want to start with your journeys professionally. I want to hear about the first time you experienced failure. And it didn't have to be the very first time, because that might have been in kindergarten, but I want to know the time that sticks out to you in your head, the first time failure seemingly crippled you. And, we can go one at a time at this one. I just want to hear about that first experience.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, especially with failure, when you first told me about the topic, the first thing that always pops into my head about failure for me is school and college. And of course, I totally would have did things very different, hindsight. But my first experience with failure was definitely going to school and realizing that school wasn't everything that I thought it was going to be. And then also realizing that it's okay that I might not finish school right this second. I can come back. School will still always be here. But in the moment, it was a struggle. And I felt like I had to complete it. I needed to, all my friends were graduating, and I felt shame and I felt like a failure for not being able to get through school in the 4 years and get a degree and have some job in the corporate world and complete the checklist, as is. So that was my first experience with failure. And it took me a long time to process it and get okay with it. And I just wish that more people talked about it when I was younger. I definitely feel like they should talk to you, at least in high school, about, hey, college ain't for everybody, It's a lot of money, it's a lot of responsibility, and it's okay if you don't graduate from high school and jump into going to a university. You might need to take a break, You might need to go out and get you a job first and figure some things out first. So yeah, I think that would have prepared me a little bit better for the aspect of the failure of my initial college career.
How once I'm guessing so. As a result of all that, I guess like is it correct to say that you felt like a failure at some point?
Yeah, I felt like I had wasted time. I felt like I had wasted money. I felt like here I am 4 years later and I don't have, a bachelor's of this or, a master's of that at the end of my title. I switched schools, which made me feel like a failure, even though it had literally nothing to do with me. Like I just, one school just happened to be a little bit more expensive than I thought it was going to be. But that added to it because I was like, well, dang, I should have just went to one school and just graduated 4 years from that school. And here I'm at another school and now I'm a year behind. And so all of it made me feel like failure. And I had to make me feel like a failure, and it made me have a lot of shame and guilt with that failure.
Okay. Is anyone else? Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go on this one.
Okay.
This one is gonna stick out a little bit like a sore thumb now. On a personal note, my first failure in my mind, though, this my mind was telling me. When I had my daughter at 15 years old. And I'm gonna tell you why I felt like I failed her, because I didn't really have the resources that somebody of age, maybe a 21-year-old guy, 23, the mind state and the money to take care of, I'm 15 years old. Most 15-year-olds, man, they throwing rocks, busting windows or something. I got a baby girl. So what I had to do, and then by me not having my father in my life, I never got the blueprint of fatherhood or even manhood. So along the way, I was putting pieces together, just trying to make it happen. So I remember pushing that buggy, not the buggy, but the stroller around the neighborhood, man, and I would, she can't talk back to me. I would tell her, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get it together. Just give me some time, I'm gonna get it together. You know what I'm saying? As time went by, it got rough. I got real rough, but I remained in her life, what I'm saying, every day until I had to, I did a little bit of time myself, what I'm saying, but I remained in her life. I didn't look back. I moved forward with her. She just celebrated her birthday, and she's 27 years old now. And we grew up together. You know what I'm saying? I didn't run from the responsibility. I just went head on with it now. Like I said, it could have been a better layout. It could have been a better layout and a better way of going about it. But, what I had to realize, it was bigger than me, man. This is what God put in my life for a reason, you know what I'm saying? Because at the same time now, I had lost a lot of friends getting murdered. They doing life in prison. But here I am with a baby, so this is God's way of halting me, you know what I'm saying? Now that I look at it, because I could have been one or the other, but I ask her all the time, when the other kids started coming, it was kind of easy, like riding a bike, you know how to adjust to it and do it. But I will ask her, to this day sometimes, how do you feel about, honest opinion, it'd be good things I want to hear and it'd be bad things, but I have to take it real, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what I tell the kids, give it to me real. I don't want you to, I pass away and then y'all at the funeral say, oh, all kind of, no, give it to me while I'm here. So then that way I can defend myself, and then I should have an explanation, So, I ain't gonna go into it, but that was one of my first times I felt like the devil was telling me I failed, but really I didn't fail. It just, I had to learn this. I had to learn, man.
Before I hand it off to Tamara, I want to ask you, do you think that moment of feeling like a failure, because like I said, Marlo's my cousin's husband. He's my cousin, but he's my blood cousin's husband. So when I met him, he was already a father. And that's literally, since I was a little boy, one of the things I thought about him, like, he's like the perfect dad, because he was at every freaking event. He was, you know what I'm saying? He was so present. Do you think that feeling like a failure is why you, in my opinion, were like so present and you were so fatherful?
definitely. You know, especially with when you know the rest of the kids came. You know, I just from what I've been through and what I see so many other young black girls and boys, you know, went through when I was growing up. No fault, nobody throw that football with. Shoot, some of them didn't even have no mama to do their hair. So it's like I got a glimpse of from both sides of the world, from the girls and the boys. And then when I met Terry, you know, me and Terry clicked off because it was like she was the opposite of me, just a girl for him. You know, and it clicked off, and you know, we remained a bond and grew together. So like a lot of, it don't just be the guys that suffer, man. You know, it be the ladies suffer too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so it was like when you meet somebody with the opposite sex, and man, it's like you can sit down and like, huh? Or you know how I feel too. It kind of scare you because you're like, man, this one's supposed to happen. It's okay to happen to me, but you happen to you too. So I mean, it all goes like that, man. And I don't know if you remember, do you? Yeah, I ain't gonna talk long, y'all. You had came down to the house one summer, and man, you probably don't remember, man. This when I used to be in the street, man. Man, I had a bag full of money, and I remember you asked me, man, what you finna do with all that money?
Work.
I said, I'm finna go buy some more work, man. But what I'm saying is, I don't enjoy. I didn't enjoy doing that, man. But it was what I was taught by my cousin and them. But this is how to provide. Don't get me wrong. You know, it paid the bills and you know helped out and things like that. But MJ and Martell, I would never teach them nothing like that. You know, because it was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because it was wrong because that's not the way to do it. Go to school like he's finna start Fort Valley, man. This would be my first kid, man, to go to college.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, see it with my own eyes. So it was like that way, you know, how you guys, you know, y'all guys went to school, that's the way, you know, all you guys made it. You know, give yourself a pat on the back. You know, and that's the way, man. But I just said I'll never lie to my nephews, my nieces, anybody younger than me. I'm not gonna sell them a lie. You know, you have to be truthful with them, let them know, you know, you go to school, get your education. Or, you know, some people work, get a good job, that's cool too, but at the end of the day, we just got to, for this next generation, y'all have to set the tone for them. You know, set the tone for them. You know, that's I'm gonna leave it like that.
My first, I won't say my first, but the moment where I felt failure that sticks out to me the most is the second year out of college. So
You mean after you had graduated?
So I graduated with my bachelor's and I went straight in for my master's. But in that, my first year, I worked as a teacher's assistant because there weren't really any drama teacher positions out there. And I thought my dream job was to be a drama teacher, like teach drama and do integrated lesson plans with the kids or whatever. And I'll never forget that I'll never forget that when I actually got married, Cody and I got married a couple of months after I graduated, and then 2 months into us getting married, we were pregnant. And then I was a new teacher because I went into I got a drama teacher position the next year. I was a new teacher, new mom, new wife, and in the master's program all at the same time. And I don't know why I thought I could handle all of that, but it was too much.
Oh.
And I felt
She's like, don't snap just yet.
I felt like a failure because I ended up having to resign from my job. And I've always had a job. Like even in college, I worked somewhere. And I just remember it put us in a tough place financially because a lot of our bills were built upon a 2-income household. But I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. So right after my baby was born, I remember holding him. He was maybe 3 months old. I remember looking at him and just crying. And I couldn't, because I just felt like I couldn't do for him. And I was at a school was probably, I was at a school that the behavior, when you name this school, people be like, oh, you know, it was one of them schools. But at the time, I thought, you know, I could have handled it. Teaching and classroom management was never an issue for me. Like, if I tell you to sit down, go and sit down somewhere, you can go down and sit down somewhere. But at that time, I was handling so much. I was literally trying to I was in the master's program. I was going to class after work. I was doing assignments. I was trying to understand what it was to be a wife. And so when I had to resign, I broke down. Like, everything in me just felt like a failure. And I'm watching my husband struggle trying to make ends meet while I'm trying to, you know, go to school. It was just a lot. And I remember thinking, you know, how did I end up like this? This wasn't a part of the plan. But I tell you, I'm glad everything went the way it did, because it really has paved the way for where I am now. I learned so much through that process, and it was a painful process, but it was a needed process. And I don't have any regrets. I can't go back and say I wish I had done it a different way, because I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about my insecurities in that moment, areas where I felt like I was confident. I'm sorry, y'all.
No, keep going.
My bracket broke off of my brace. Is literally poking me in the back of my mouth. Woo! 30 with braces. I need to write a show about that.
My mom got her braces at 46.
Listen,
My mom had braces in high school.
I'm about to get another set, so don't worry. I already have them.
That's forever.
Listen, the bracket broke. I just got my wires changed. The bracket broke off today, just today. Well, I got to go back tomorrow. But anyway, so yes, I pretty much said all that to say that it was even sometimes now I can remember the smell of that moment. I can remember everything about that moment. I can remember it and go back to it. I probably could burst into tears.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that I needed it. I needed every part of that failure, if you will. You know, I guess we'll get into what is failure anyway, but like,
more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's hear from Kiana.
Yeah, I'm not gonna repeat the same things because
your personal the first time you experienced a notable.
Yeah, I won't do first. I'll do more like relevant, just because like we went to college. Mess is traumatic. Mm-hmm. Alex is just duplicate that same story. Mess is traumatic. Little black girl from Atlanta going to a place where people's parents are as rich as Croesus.
Right.
And just, you know, thinking, you know, like I'm smart, like I'm not a dummy, you know, I'm in there.
I always knew you were going to go to I always knew out of everybody I knew that you would go to like Stanford, Harvard, or Yale, something like that.
Yeah, they had the money, you know, my mom was working, they had that knee base, so we had to roll. But just, you know, so that trauma in and of itself, just being dropped into a place where people just wild. So that's fair. But I will say my most vivid failure is actually just very recently. So last June, I had moved last 2 years ago, February, I moved from California to Austin. Because I wanted to switch from K through 12 to do more corporate learning and development. I was like, Lord, I love being a teacher, but Jesus, I like the nonprofit life. I don't like this nonprofit pay. Like, what I'm gonna do? So I had this job opportunity to finally do corporate learning, and you know, kind of move away from K through 12 in Austin. So I came to Austin and super excited. It seemed like a really great company. They seemed to really enjoy me and all this stuff and blah blah blah. And I really liked my job. I got to travel. I got to go to, you know, Paris and Switzerland and Chicago, New York, LA every other day, traveling and teaching. Fantastic. But then the job got really bad. I had bad leadership. I was, now I can say it, but I have a hard time feeling like if things are going wrong, then it must be because I'm not trying good enough. Or like I'm not, there's something I'm doing. Like I'm very, like the first thing I go to is, introspection. Like, what can I be doing different? What can I do better? And so even in the process of doing that, what I actually ended up doing was like giving into other people's gaslighting myself and my own feelings and emotions. Like a typical sort of, Black girl story. You're a pet until you're a pest. They're excited about all your ideas and diversity and things are different until you say, okay, so we're going to do this now. And they're like, oh, no. Right? Like I feel like everyone has probably experienced this in some type of way, just like ultimate gaslighting of everything. So I got fired from that job in June. I just found another job. April 20th was my first day of work. So just like Tamra, I have been working since I was 16. My mom didn't let me have no job during the school year, but she let me have a little summer job. She wouldn't let me work in the school year. But in college, I had 4 jobs. I've never been unemployed in my life. And I'm on unemployment. So I'm, filing and doing this stuff. I'm on SNAP. I am, my 2 college degrees and everything else. And here I am feeling like I can't find a job. And not only can I not find a job, but I have been fired from a job where all I tried to do was be better, contribute, and learn truly. I'm not saying I was perfect or there are things that I wouldn't do differently, but I know that I approached that with earnestness and intelligence and enthusiasm, and to sort of be met with people saying, you're not doing this well enough, or you're not doing this like this should be. And I'm like, well, yes, you have me doing 3 different jobs and you're underpaying me. So I can't do all of that. We advocating for myself and wanting to advocate for others around me, and always being the person to speak up and say hey, that's not okay. But, and then people coming to me secretly being like, we're so glad you said something. But then of course, when the hammer comes down, it's,
you gone, they by yourself.
Yeah, I'm gone. And little did I know. And I'm not happy about it, but God's time is always on time, because let me tell you, there's a lot of people not working there now, and I said, oh, but you thought you was safe. And here you go looking for a job during the pandemic, and I'm at an e-commerce company where we ain't doing nothing but making more money because people shopping online. I got good job security. So God's time is always on time, but I say all that to say, it broke me down. This is probably the hardest year I've ever experienced in my life. I was deeply depressed, just struggling with my value as a person who wasn't working. What does it mean if I'm not working 14 hours a day? Who am I? Making me realize that I hadn't cultivated personal friendships in a way that would bolster me, and just feeling, and I had them, but when you're in the fog, you just feel alone. But it was during this year that so many good things came out of it, in the sense of, I do have deep anxiety, and that 10 milligrams of Lexapro gets your girl together, okay? Drawing boundaries with my...
I'm sorry, I literally just took Lexapro. My doctor just put me on it. I'm so nervous about it. Does it work?
I feel very good about it. So I had been taking some Wellbutrin, and that made me a little too flat. I just was sort of but the Lex, I'm on a 10 mil, very small dosage, but it just helps take the edge off, and I do like it. It doesn't interrupt my sleep. I feel good. I hope it works for you, because I really have found some just beautiful rest.
This is 10 milligrams.
Yes, man. Look, just a little play with your little. What's the fancy? What's it called? Escitalopram, the fancy name, because I take generics because I ain't paying that money. But to take me some when I get off the phone with y'all, and my Claritin, because I got these allergies. I'm about to take both of them when I get off the phone with you.
I know that.
Yes, but just that, and even having that conversation, and because I've tried to broach my mental health with my parents before, and they haven't been super supportive about it. And having to draw financial boundaries, because I was, when I was working, I did take care of a lot of finances for my mother. And just really having to say, I can't do that. And not only that, it wasn't an issue of just I can't pay for stuff, but I think I was crippling my own mother and looking at her own personal spending habits and finances, and drawing us down. Like my body image is on 5,000 right now because what you realize when you're not working, you just like the privilege of chasing thinness is truly capitalistic, right? Like I'm like, girl, but I look at him and I'll be like, you're so fine. I don't know what to do with you, honey. Like thinking of all the money that I've wasted on stuff and try. When you just have to look at what is life, it's like my body is here. It works. It moves. It's beautiful. It's loved. Mm-hmm. Right? People appreciate it. I don't want to talk. I could literally talk all day, but it's just I know. Look, but the failure. The point. I was like, I feel inadequate as a person and a person in this body and a person in this life experience. And I just never felt that way before to that degree. Mm-hmm. And it was truly jarring, but at the same, but now got my talk therapy, got my Lexapro, honey, got me a little
therapy,
kind of decent,
Okay. Thank you, Kiana. Thank you for sharing.
20 more minutes. Okay, look, I'm in take my Lexapro there, girl.
I'm focusing on the anxiety issues because, like I said at the beginning, that's just something that we need to delve into as a conversation. Okay, Julian, what about you?
Failure. I feel like we kind of keep touching on the same subject, which is weird, and then not because I feel, it makes sense in a way because I guess everyone's having the same shared experience. Like we talk about feeling like a failure in your place in life and where you are, and perhaps maybe that's just something that everyone kind of goes through at one point or another, where you just kind of reevaluate like how far you've come, where you've gone, and what your own expectations for yourself were, and like where you've fallen short, because perhaps that's just really it. Everyone has their own expectations, and even the most successful people still have fallen short of their own expectations at one point or another. For myself, I feel like it aligns a lot with a lot of what like everyone else is kind of going through. As far as for me, it's like with school, and then like that I could have done that much better and much easier and in my own way. And then after that, like my career choice and stuff like that, I could really, and it's something that I'm actually in the throes of struggling with now, that sense of failure. It's like it's really burdensome at this time. Mostly just because there's so many transitions that are happening in my life and stuff. So I'm stuck. I'm not stuck, but I'm at this point where I'm reevaluating everything I've done up until now, and it's become this huge question of where do I want to go, and the failure, the shame of the failure, the shame of feeling failure that comes with not having my shit together and being situated in that way, because and that's something that is kind of instilled upon us from like our older generations, because for them it was easy. They were like, okay, well, if you're not sure what you want to do, you can just kind of like work for a company and you could be their janitor, and before you know it, you're their CEO. But that's not the case these days. That's not the way that's going to work. You can't move through the ranks like that. You have to have that plan. You have to know exactly where you want to go so that you can take that path. You can't, something won't present itself to you the way that it did in their generation. And that's fine. Things change. That's just the way it is. But I feel like the newer generations have a stronger pressure as far as being successful and how that success is, how we see, like what that success actually is. I feel like it's a very corporate kind of a scheme. And you have to have like your own apartment at least, and then you should be starting a family soon. Like I'm 32 now. I should have checked off like 80 things by now that I don't even have. So it's like
social too.
You
think it's only corporate? You don't think it's social too?
Oh yeah, no, but social as well. But you know what I mean. But my point is that like the measure of success is a little bit different. It was taught to us differently than what reality actually is, and that's why I say like I'm kind of in the throes of trying to kind of absolve my own failures, my own feeling of failure in myself and regret and stuff, and then just trying to find my path, because like that's the other thing that like as far as failure and things like and success goes, we're not all meant to follow these same blueprints. We're all, and sometimes we still end up in a path that wasn't really meant for us, you know. You still, and you might be okay with that, you know. Some people come to terms with that and things like that, but who you were meant to be, like, everyone's meant to kind of purchase to contribute something, and it's just finding what that is. And that's where I'm struggling, at least, is where what is it that I'm supposed to be contributing to the world, and then how do I make that happen?
Right.
You know. So,
Can I ask
and
a
it sounds
question
very
to
vague,
Aaron?
but
No,
go ahead.
can I ask a question to my beautiful parents over here?
Oh, wait. Can you hold the question really quick? You know, can you
Yeah, I
remember?
will.
Remember? All
I
right.
remember it. I remember it.
Because I wanted to give my little spiel, and then we'll launch into like the actual discussion.
Oh.
And I think what you're gonna ask will be great for that. I think my first failure, not my first failure, but the failure that sticks out the most to me and will be most relevant was when I caught my felony. When I felt like there were so many like, oh, Durye's gonna be this and Durye's gonna be that for my family. Like, oh, he can sing, he can dance, he can act, he can and then, you know, I've always been a perfectionist, and I've always been told that I was very good at what I'm doing, and that's where I was gonna catapult into this awesomeness. I'm the first one of my grandmother's children to have a degree, and I'm also the first one to have a felony. So I remember it was really tough that day. We were in the courtroom, and it's the only time my mother was in court with me. And she was doing like the character. She was saying, I'm sitting there in orange jumpsuit. My hands are shackled together to my feet, which are also shackled together. And she's up there telling the judge of this amazing person I am. I felt like such a horrible, useless, worthless individual in that moment. Like, my mother has worked so hard my mom got her bachelor's degree at 42 after raising two men, and then went and got her master's. My mom is nothing but a hard worker. And all of that was reduced to this moment. And in my head, like, you know what I'm saying? It made me feel like a failure because I felt like I knew I was making her feel that way too. It was so horrible of a situation for me, because not only did I feel like a failure, I knew everyone else thought I was too. I knew it. You couldn't convince me of anything else. Everything that I had ever done positively was not even a thing anymore. It was just that moment. And it was selfishness that led me there. So it's one thing when you're and granted, I had the best of intentions, but it was still selfishness that led me there. And so when you're out here trying to be this like super person, working hard, being in college, being a good father, which is the one thing I think that I hear that ties us all to these things. You know, everybody's story involved hustle. Whether intentional or not, everybody's story was like, I was trying really hard to do this, and then I failed, which is in and of itself, that in that moment, we called it a failure, but what we didn't really realize in that moment was, no, you were literally winning because you were out there trying. And I have a failure is necessary. Everyone always thinks that failure is the antithesis of success, when actually success is the byproduct of failure. In order to succeed, you must fail. You absolutely must fail.
At the collection plate, you done already did the sermon for the evening, amen.
And it's crazy, like, when you think about all the stuff that we had to go through to come to that assertion. Somebody watching this right now will hear us say that, and still it won't sink in. Or maybe it will, and this will be the time that it sank in. But you absolutely, I love to bring up these two people because they're amazing, and also because, you know, they fit the context. Beyonce and Jennifer Hudson. They were both. Can y'all fix your faces? Fix your faces, okay? The reason I like to bring up Beyonce, if you know how to call her, okay? The reason I like to bring her up is because, all right, I'm gonna talk about Jennifer Hudson first, because Beyonce, but Jennifer Hudson took, not only was her leaving that show humiliating, she wasn't really getting work after she got kicked off of that show. was hustling, but it wasn't really happening. And American Idol back in those days was you pretty much definitely were going to get a recording contract. To come in like second or third, yeah, she came in seventh for real. People are basically saying, okay, Jennifer, you know, now Kiana knew me back then. Kiana knew I was always riding for Jennifer Hudson.
Always. Your girl was Jennifer and Latrice.
You know, but she took that failure and let it fuel her. The same as Beyonce and when Destiny's Child broke up. Whereas most girl groups, that's it for them once they break up or change the group. And I'm sure there were people saying, oh, what are you gonna do now? Y'all are, and that's even the worst part. So I want you, go ahead and ask your question, Kiana, but I also keep in mind for the question, what was that moment after the failure where you convinced yourself that wasn't it? Do y'all get what I'm asking? So go ahead and ask your question to the parents first, and then I'll come back to mine.
Yeah, no, I think I was moved by something Julian said, which is like, you know, people have this social checklist of like kids and all this stuff. And I know I don't necessarily feel a failure about it because I also love keeping my money. But I know that there is this expectation, me as like a cis het woman particularly, to like have a family or whatever and things like that. And because I am 32 and I'm like, get these eggs brittle, that's cool. But I was just wondering for people who, my parents are sort of like, you've done that checklist. Do you feel like that satisfied kind of that social need, or do you find yourself finding another, like, is there another checklist after that? Like, what does it feel satiating? I'm basically trying to be like, do I want big lips? I don't know. Like, I'm trying to, you know.
Should I have children or not?
Yeah, y'all tell me something. Y'all tell me something.
You're asking that since now that they have kids, do they feel successful in that?
Yes, you feel like, all right, I have the kids, like family time is all.
That's true.
Like,
That's a great question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Marlo, Cameron?
No. No. Like I said, my husband and I were married for all of 2 or 3 months, and then we found out we were pregnant.
What was y'all doing for them 3 months? All right. Okay.
Getting pregnant. How dare you?
Right now.
But that's a whole nother story for another day. But yes, no, I don't think there is, to me, everybody always has goals, right? So there is no stopping point. Like, whether you have kids or not, like, I have my 2 kids, we want more kids. We want more kids, right? But even outside of the kids portion, man, we have so many other things that we want to do. There's no stopping here. My husband just launched his business. He wants to eventually become a full-time entrepreneur. But I told him, hold on, not going to benefits at his job. We need to hold on. Somebody got to have a benefit. You can't hold on, bump your brakes. Health insurance. We need the showings. But, but, you know, there are so many, we want to travel. We want to do a lot. Like there's a lot of things that we are looking forward to. Now the next thing on the list is being a homeowner. You know, we've been married going on 7 years, and we've lived in apartments and put all of our money into someone else's mortgage, you know, and then after that, we want a bigger vehicle. Like, there's other things besides just, there's other practical things, and there's other goals that we have set. You know, my husband eventually, he's been in school off and on, but eventually he wants to get his bachelor's degree. He went and got his associates. Now he wants to get his bachelor's degree. Like I said, he wants to become a full-time entrepreneur. I have launched my business, but eventually I want to grow my YouTube channel and allow it to be another stream of income. So there's a lot of, there is, to answer your question, no, it doesn't stop there, at least for me. And I'm looking at Marlo's response, and I'm thinking it's the same thing. It doesn't stop there. You know, you always have some goal. You can have, 6 kids after the 6 kids and still be like, I still want to do X, Y, and Z. If anything, having a kid can create more goals, because the kids can halt you for a second. It can halt you, and not in a bad way, but in a moment, give or take, when they're still young, you have to pour and sacrifice your own time, into them. And so it can halt some of your dreams. I know it has for my husband. He hasn't been able to do everything that he wants to do, because when we got married, I already at least had my bachelor's. he hasn't got to fully experience that yet because he went straight to work and was just like, I got to provide for my family. So when our sons get a little bit older, his plan is to do even more, you know? So if anything, it probably creates more of a list for you, if that makes sense. Yes.
I'm sorry.
It is.
No,
you go ahead.
I'm gonna add on to that. You know, she right. You know, the hustle never stops. When the kids get older, like you say, you know, you can go back and kind of like Terry, you know, go back and do the schooling thing and do some things she would like to do. As far as myself, man, I'm still trying to chase this money, man. I mean, you know, the way my position, you know, staying healthy, you know, making sure the kids healthy, Terry healthy, my faith in God, you know, and I know when we was 21, when Terry was 19 and I was 21, you know, we moved into the house, you know what I'm saying? So we, you know, I mean, that, we know how it feels to be a homeowner, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they've been a homeowner since I was like 12. So.
Come on.
So, I mean, you know, what is to life is, man, you know, I'm going to say this right here and I'm going to keep it real. Man, you can stay in a 1-bedroom apartment with 7 kids. As long as you got love in there, that's what it's about. It don't matter about apartment, a house, hell, even a bus in the backyard. What I'm saying is whatever you put into it with your family, man, make the best of it. You know what I'm saying? It's been time where we had good times in Disney World. It have been time where on the 4th of July, I couldn't even buy a box of firecrackers. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it is what it is, but at the end of it all, whether I had the money, we had fun, but when I didn't have, and I couldn't buy them firecrackers, we still had fun. So it was never based off of the dollar. It was based off of love as a family, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, the kids getting older now, like I say, you know, Terry trying to get into things, you know, it's just watching it grow is the fun part for me, just sitting back in the chair. Like I said, when I was 21 years old, I just want to sit back in the chair and watch everything grow. And by the grace of God, that's what I'm seeing, man.
What I love about that, just to hop in real quick, I love that because I talk to people sometimes about like, no, your happiness and your success can only be defined by one person. You know what I'm saying? And what Marlo is basically saying is, I don't really need all of that. I have, you know, my family, and my goal is to continue to cultivate them and be happy in that. Not saying that if they, you know, don't go to college, I won't be happy. That's not what he's saying. You know, as long as he's able to maintain that love. And for some people, they feel like they're failures because of these things that are either temporary or
material sometimes.
And it's like, okay, even if I got a job today, I'm not gonna have that job forever, period. Whether by getting fired, leaving on my own, the company collapses, or I pass away, that job is not mine forever. So don't attach your existence to that job. And I think what I'm hearing a lot of us say is that failure comes from perspective. It really comes down to how you feel about it. So let me read some stuff that I done dredged up. All right, so it's
We take out some literature.
literature. All right, so our main topic tonight, just to give it a nice little sentence: fear of failure and how it can be used for a tool for success. Because, like we've already touched on, everybody here use their failure to fuel them toward their success, not to give up on it, right? So fear of failure is called, watch this, said it wrong. Atychiphobia. There you go. Atychiphobia. Atychiphobia.
There you go. Spell it.
Yeah, spell it out.
Atychiphobia. I put the website, the white lady on website say atychiphobia.
Well, you're right. So it says that it causes, basically, everyone has fears, and most people do at least have trepidation for failure. But when it's atychiphobia, that means it's gotten to the point where it has crippled you to inaction. I'm so afraid of failure, I won't even start the process, right? And if you're trying to do anything in life, you can't be so afraid Because whether it's you trying to walk up the street and buy some juice and you live in a tough neighborhood, or whether you're trying to become a CEO, you know, if you let that fear cripple you, you'll never get anything. You won't have those things that you want in life. So it said fear of failure causes So here are some causes of fear of failure. Critical and unsupportive parents, which clearly we have none of here because we all got past our fear of failure, right? A routine humiliation as a child or undermining as a child, and experience trauma. Like if I was going up to sing in front of the whole class, 8th grade, and I hit the wrong note, and then I'll never sing again, right? Which happened to me, by the way. But it did happen.
Saying all the time. What you talking about?
That time it was what they had me singing. House Is Not a Home by
Heard you hit the wrong note.
But you sang all the time. I don't believe y'all. He lying to you for the team.
Right, he does sing all the time though.
But I've heard him hit the wrong note.
How you gonna be the lead in the high school musical, but you ain't never sang again? Don't let him lie to y'all. Let's move on.
No. When I say it happened to me, I mean I did sing in front of the group and hit the wrong note. I'm about to say somebody ain't never sang again. I said that's the devil.
Catch him first thing in the morning. All them notes be wrong.
That's how I be. Okay, and some symptoms of fear failure is a reluctance to try new things, sabotage, anxiety, low self-confidence, self-deprecation, and perfectionism, which all of those words, or most of those words, came up. So the reason I bring that up is to say that out loud, because then we also talk about the fact that all of us dealt with those things and we've all moved past them. So anyone experiencing that right now, there's things you can do to move forward. So questions. What was that question I asked y'all earlier? Y'all know I'm old.
That's like,
how did it propel you forward? Like, I guess overcoming a tickophobia. How does that?
Those intense failures. You're right. We all picked some of the failures that stuck out to us. So what was it after that was like, you know what? Nah, this ain't gonna be it. I'm getting up. I'm moving forward.
I would say for me, it was just, I was just tired of feeling depressed. Like I was tired of feeling bad for myself. I was tired of not being motivated. And just like for me with school, like once I left school and then I started working, I kind of just accepted any old job just to start making money. And I felt like at that point, that's what I deserved. Like that's where I was supposed to be in life. And that was just it. And it took me honestly years to get to a point where the lack of motivation was just too much. It was like, okay, you're not doing anything. Like you're getting out of bed, like that commercial for that college, you're getting out of bed, you're not doing anything, you're just sitting on the couch, you're watching your life go by.
Right.
And I know, like, of course, you know, we talk all the time, Dre, but I'm much more of the kind of person, people ask me how I am and I'm like, I'm fine. And then let's talk about something else because I don't really want to talk about, I'm sad, you know? So it just took me being a little bit more honest with what I was feeling. And then, okay, now you know what you're feeling. Are you tired of feeling that way? Okay, now you tired? Okay, now what you gonna do about it? Okay, now you figured that out. And I feel like making those baby steps for myself helped me pull myself out of that kind of situation.
Do you feel like experiencing that failure opened your mind up to not only those truths, but also new possibilities? Because what I'm hearing you say is like, you went to college thinking that this was the road.
Right.
You got there like, this isn't the road, but you had instilled in your mind that it was. So in a sense, had you not failed, you would not have found, because now what you're doing, the thing that you're getting into with writing and performing, and really more what fuels you. You know, had you been successful in those arenas, you may have never come to that.
Right. Like had I been, I guess, successful in what I had went to school for originally, I wouldn't have met so many people that I've met. I wouldn't have had the ideas that I've had. You know, I wouldn't have learned my own voice like as well as I've learned it. And it definitely taught me more in hindsight. But yeah, in the moment, I was like, oh my God, I failed. I suck. Ooh, I'm a loser. No one look at me. So yeah, I definitely think that the baby steps of actually vocalizing that I was shameful, figuring out ways to get out of my shame, and then reaching those goals is what helped me in the long run. And like I said, it took me years. It wasn't, don't rush anybody's process. For anybody watching this, don't feel like I failed yesterday and today I have to have all the answers. Like, no, it's a process. Roll with it. You're not gonna get it right the first time. You're not gonna get it right the 5th time. Like, just accept that journey.
Y'all think that failure is like a thing, like the way we view failure? Do you think it's because we're American?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think our culture adds to it, but then at the same time, every culture is going to have their own level of failure, version of failure and success. Exactly, that we're feeling now. Just that the way we feel ours is common because of where we were raised.
Right.
And I think that's something else that is gendered and racial as well, like expectation, because you can't. So, for instance, you remember when I went to that little high school in France my junior year?
Yeah.
I had that little host family. My host sister had been kept back 3 times. That's very normal in France. If you don't make whatever little grade, they're like, all right, you just repeat it. And the kids are like, okay, we'll repeat it till we'll learn it. It's not, because they got free college and everything. They're just like, whatever. Like, we'll learn it and when we're ready, then we'll go. There's no
question. Do you think that's better that they do it like that?
I honestly do, because like in my mind, so let me say, honestly do for a homogeneous French white population, I think that's attainable, right? I think we have too much stigma to allow like little black and brown kids to do that with the same nonchalance. So I don't want to, those are not comparators, but I say all that to say, like, we know what familial expectations, and the statistics bear it out. Don't let me get to lying, but I feel like some people somewhere, they say it once, like black and brown people, particularly they said black and Latino identified people, we have a tendency to go into, as is reflected by this panel, professions that are about giving back. So we will be lawyers, we will be teachers, we will be nurses, we will work in service sectors, versus our counterparts are most like, they are more apt to go into things like computer science or engineer, like something that maybe not have like that component of each one teach one, pull one up, right? So I do think the failure or the expectation of success is built in because there are stakes for us in a way that I don't think.
Stakes?
Huh?
Stakes?
Stakes. Like when you think about the stakes of everything that we do as black and brown people, it comes with a higher bar of responsibility, right? Like
we have to be more excellent.
More right. If I don't do this, if Kiana doesn't go to college and make money, I'm dealing with it right now, and I'm trying to get my shit together. But like, if Kiana doesn't go to college and make money, like life has fought. My parents can never retire, ever. Like they did, and it's not their fault. Like, this is not me blaming my parents, but they did not have the financial acumen that maybe I would think they would want to have, or their ability to make money, or like. They will get Social Security. That's probably the best they're going to do until they die. That falls on me to do. Like, that expectation is there, familial expectation, right? Like, I think sometimes that the subsistence need, and the idea of like, if the village has poured so much into you, just like you were saying with your mom when she was in court with you, like so many people have poured into Duryea, so many people have built this narrative of Duryea, so many people have made these expectations of the greatness and wondrous things that you will do. For you to not embody that feels like community failure. It isn't just this, he did something different. It feels like a ripple effect.
So do you think, and this is to the panel, so is the failure more, and I want to answer this question, I want to ask this question correctly, it's kind of vague. Is this more a societal pressure, a familiar pressure, a community, like where is it coming from more? Like I hear you saying that it's a racial thing, but but I'm guessing like, where is it coming from more? The reason I ask is because if we were to do something to help people avoid these failures and avoid these feelings of, Tamara, you all right? If we were to do something, I thought you were passing out.
I'm thinking because I wanted to chime in on that, so I was letting you finish.
Okay. Yeah, but if we were to do something as a community, as an American community, because I personally feel like America is a nation that is really tough on failure. This is what it looks like to be a failure. However, having said that, I feel like this country is one of the best countries as far as wanting you to succeed after failing. Like, I think we root for the underdog. I feel like if you fuck up, like Jussie Smollett, if he stay quiet long enough, when he show up again, everybody gonna be rooting for him. Like if OJ can still have a fan group. So I feel like that's also part of being American. So I kind of want to hear y'all's ideas about that.
I was telling someone recently that, well, actually my counselor, she was trying to help me get to the root of when I became a perfectionist. And it was while I was at CSU in the theater department as a young Black girl who I felt like I had to do 10 times more than my white counterparts because I had to prove to them that I could. I had to prove to them that I wasn't the stereotype that they assumed of me, that I was going to be late, that I wasn't going to be lazy, that I wasn't going to have a work ethic. And I got tired of it, but I had to do it because that was the only way I was going to be seen outside of the stereotypical Black girl. And so I know for me, that's where the root of that perfectionism comes from, and the root of I gotta do. But then when it translated out of college, it stayed with me. It was almost like I was suffering from PTSD afterwards because I went into the workforce. And then there I felt like I had to be perfect. And it just became this unhealthy, toxic relationship with myself because I was still living in that old space, that old mindset. And I had to come out of that to realize, and to answer your question, to help other people who may be watching this. For me, I really do think for any group of people that have been oppressed or have felt like they had to prove themselves to white people, the majority in this country, who to prove themselves to them, I feel like my advice would be to shake that off and do you regardless and be you unapologetically, because at the end of the day, if a racist is gonna be a racist, and they're gonna be a racist, and whether you show them who you really are, that you do have work ethic and that you are successful and that you are intelligent and you do have a beautiful mind, or if you do everything they expect you to do, they still gonna think what they want to think about you regardless. That lady's opinion of me never really changed.
Me too.
She was a little bit. She was shocked. But she didn't change how she felt about me. She was shocked. She was surprised that, oh, she actually did the opposite of what I thought. But it never changed her opinion of me. She was still ugly to me. She still treated me those ways. So it didn't matter. I did all of that for what? For me to, for my advisor, someone who helped me, walk me through. I have not heard from her. She hasn't congratulated me on any of my successes. But hey, here we are. So my thing is, do you, boo, be you unapologetically, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to answer for yourself. And if you look up 10 years from now and say, oh my God, how did I get here? Because I was too busy trying to please this person instead of worrying, because at the end of the day, you got to answer to yourself. You got to live within yourself and say, okay. And I had to have that tough conversation of, Tamara, because I thought about going to get my doctorate. And for a while, I decided that I wasn't going back to school because I felt like I was only going to prove myself. Why would I go and get more debt? You know what I'm saying? And now that I've come out of that, I'm considering it, but I'm considering it for the education, not because I want to go and tell everybody, oh, I'm Dr. Francis. Like, no, it has nothing to do with that. But for a while, I was going to do it because it was like I was needing to prove myself. But for whom? For what? So that's my take on it.
Does anyone else want to hop in before I say what I'm about to say?
Hey, Dury, give me that question one more time.
I'm basically saying, like, as a community, what is our role in not only avoiding it for ourselves, but creating fear of failure in other people? Because basically what she was just talking about was a teacher who was supposed to literally be doing the opposite of making this girl feel inferior, who made her feel that way. And me and her have literally never really talked about this situation. So it's interesting, this is the first time I've heard a lot of this stuff from her. So I'm guessing for you, and I guess you could have a different take on it because you're a father and you're a father of boys and you want them to feel capable. But one of the examples in here was that causes fear of failure is unsupportive parents or overly critical parents. Right. So I just want to hear your insight on that generally.
Okay, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna use MJ for example. That's my oldest son. He got in trouble, man. You know, me and Terry, with all the kids, we get them a jail-free card. Okay, so I'm just keeping it real. So he gets locked up, dude. Daddy, come get me. I ain't trying to find out what I'm coming. I'll be there. I get him out. When I get him out, he explained to me, Daddy, this right here. I said, well, MJ, I support you, man. You know, I still believe you. I love you. But I ain't coming to get you no more.
Yep, that's what.
So I got him out, dude. He did right. So he went back to jail again. I didn't get him out.
You didn't get him out, Marlo?
I didn't get him out, dude. I'm going to tell you why. Because I said, you know, me and Terry got you out. I said, tell your mom it's her time. So when he got out, I talked to him, dude. I had a friend work at Boyle Bricks down here in Augusta, Georgia. You know, and I asked my friend, man, I got a son. He a good guy. His peers he was hanging around with, man. That's what got him into the situation. So he got out, you know, got the job. He's still working the job now. You know, he got a daughter. He got a girlfriend. You know, they stay together. He's doing the right thing. But he said, Dad, I see what you were saying. I said, well, you know, the thing is when somebody younger than you, I can't sit here and act like I'm Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I have did some things that I'm not proud of. So if I see a young man doing something at the dollar store, I'm like, look, man, hey, you know, you don't want to do that. Sometimes they'll say, hey, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Sometimes they'll say, oh, you're right. Mm-hmm. So it just really, it's how you experience, man, in life on different things.
But how do you do that? How do you be that hand that supports without being overly critical and creating a fear? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Well, if it's some, okay, I see what you're saying now. So, okay, so if it's positive, you know, I support it all the way, but support it all the way meaning like with the resources. It ain't even got to be a kid. It could be, you know, somebody in the family or somebody who's trying to go over is something positive, man. I'll do my best to stand behind them and give them the resource. You know what I'm saying? And anyway I hand was, I mean, you know, a structure, a blueprint, trying to help them. This is how you want to think about, get it going, just sharing ideas. But on a negative situation, man, I really, man, I don't have no conversation for that because, I mean, I just buried that part right there, man. Everything is just, it's hard to explain, dude. But it's just, if it's negative, I don't even want to be around it. You know what I'm saying?
You're saying that like you don't put negative expectations. You don't push negative narrative to your children.
I try not to, man, because you know they already seeing negative every day they wake up, dude. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you got to fight the world out here as it is. I mean, even though it's positive in the house, I know when they turn that front door and go out, it's the world, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I try to teach them about keeping their faith in God, let them know who God is, because I'm gonna tell you, you know, I sit right here in this chair tonight, dude, man. I'm living proof that no matter the education, no matter the money, man, it's God's will, man. I could be one to go one way, like one of the panel members said. That way right there wasn't even meant for me to go that way. He redirected me. So like, you know, and I ain't trying to get, you know, on a pastor level, nothing like that, but
It's okay. Tamara with you for sure.
but my favorite just, man, it's in God, Duryea, and for the underdog, man, if I can give him a good blueprint that made sense to him and to motivate him, you know, that's what it's about, man. But I think all the underdogs, everybody who going through something, struggling, you're already down, so you have no way but to go up. You can't go down no more. You've been down so long, you got to go up. And then when you go up, you're going to maintain it, you know, because you done been down so long. You see what I'm saying? Now, somebody up top already, they got these, maintain that duty, it's going to come down. You see what I'm saying?
You think it's harder for a person to maintain when they had it handed to them than it does for a person who had to work for it?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you right real quick, my opinion. The panel might have another opinion. I'm going to say for that person who had it, you know, handed to them by a family, you know, through the family, they got to keep, see the family member who passed it to you, he might have was real hungry and a hustler to get it that way. Now he done passed to somebody who don't care, no energy, they got to come down. To where somebody who ain't never had it, get it, they don't want to go back down there.
Yep, you're right. I hear that. Anybody agree with that, disagree?
I agree completely. Cause like so my parents like grew up, obviously, they're first generation immigrant, I guess. Not first generation, but first generation of immigrant, I guess.
So
Second maybe. Their parents came first. They were like, well, their parents came and then they also came. Some of them are first, like my one aunt's first generation along with most of the kids, most of my cousins and stuff. But they all immigrated in their generation, I guess is the way of saying it. But so it's like, you know, they worked really hard to get where they are. And like, I live in like white suburbia now. So it's like, but that wasn't always the case, you know, when I was born, that's not where we lived. And that wasn't the socioeconomic like status that we held, but they had to work in a different, like harder in a different way to kind of make their way there. And then now we're talking about the first generation of us, and like a few of us have got it all together, but not all of us have quite gotten it all together. And so I kind of understand. I agree where it's like if you had to work super hard to get something that you already have that respect, you already know what the respect of that journey is. So you don't really fall far from that grace. But if it's not a journey that you've ever really had to take before, you sometimes take it for granted. Not always. I would just say that that's not always the case, but it is easier to fall into that not laziness, but it's more like
complacency.
That's the word exactly that I was going to use, girl. Get out of my head. But you know what I mean? But you know, it's falling into that complacency. It's easier when you didn't quite work for it. But what I will say is that when you kind of realize that you've become complacent, you get on board. You know, you end up at that same status that your parents in this situation hadn't kind of figured out already.
There's like a line where, okay, just because I want to ask this before we run out of time. So when you're talking about like fear of failure, right? And being afraid of doing and doing something and failing it and repetitiously failing, where's the line between giving up and realizing that you're just not cut out for whatever you're trying to do? And this is for the people who are out there who keep getting smacked on the head. Like, where's the line? When do you realize that, oh, this just isn't, I'm not cut out for this? You're that singer who's been trying for 20 years. Like, because you have success stories. Like, I'm gonna use Tamar Braxton. Like, she was hustling. This group she had didn't work. This solo album she had didn't work. Then finally she got the album that worked. So where's the line? Where's the line?
I think this is a really important thing because I would say a lot of this really hinges on like a strong sense of self. I think we have so much social input, whether that be friends, family, society at large, about who we are and who we're supposed to be. And just like Tamara was saying, like you have to do what you have to do. And just like Marla was saying, like you can put that negativity or that positivity into the world. And I know it's harder sometimes than not. So I'm not getting on a page of individualism, but what I will say is like, it's okay to fail, and it's okay to fail repeatedly. But it also is that, what do they say? Insanity is doing the same thing again and again and again.
Expecting different
expecting
results.
Yeah.
So I think that failure, which I think here we know is not a negative thing, that failure is contingent upon, I think, a constant feedback loop of, okay, do a postmortem on what you just did. Like what can you change? What can be enhanced? Okay, then you try it again. If we're just employing the same mechanism again and again and again and hitting our head, then like you don't, maybe adaptation in the situation is your strong point. Maybe you just need to like let it go. But I will say that I truly believe that when people are thoughtful and have a willingness to change and grow, have a growth mindset, because that's what I was lacking this past year. I literally teach to my kids all the time, and I couldn't grasp it for myself. But as I understood, like, having a growth mindset around things, that I can learn, I can do differently, I can have a different set of expectations, I think that only leads to success. And it might not be success in the way that you thought, because I think even that changes. But like, I think if you employ that, you can't help but to have something good and wonderful. And as I say that in the same breath, I also be very clear: quitters are winners. Because when I tell you, I will leave a job so quick, I will leave a situation so quick. I have friendships that I've had for 10 years, and I finally was like, that does not serve me. I gotta quit you. And you got these people in your life, you gotta quit them. So it's a balance, right? Like, adapt, change, grow, but also
know when to cut it off.
Know when to cut it off, right?
Yeah.
Know when to quit that shit, right? So
knowing when to cut it off, and also knowing when to keep going. Like, even with like Tamar Braxton, you were using her example, she believed enough in her ability that, even if she's saying back up maybe for the next 25, 30, 40 years, eventually she felt strongly enough about herself that she was going to get a record deal and she's going to be a lead vocalist. And she was. And you have to have that kind of mindset for yourself. My passion, my gift, my whatever, it's going to happen for me. It might not happen today. It might not even happen the way that I thought it would happen. Tamar Braxton could have just as easily been singing country as she is singing R&B. So you have to be adaptable, and you have to know when to cut things off. You have to know when to keep moving, and you have to listen to yourself and trust yourself and the red flags that appear in your life, because you can't be asking God for signs and then just ignoring the signs. Like, the signs are there for a reason.
I'm like, God, tell me not to mess with this nigga one more time. Okay.
He turned on no scrubs, and then you're like, ooh, let me change the channel. No, you have to pay attention to no scrubs. You can't do it.
You can't do it.
It seems to me that like failure is very much individual in the way success is. How you define success is kind of how failure is going to affect you as well. It's a very individual thing. Sometimes it'll defeat one person, it'll drive another one. There might come a, like you were kind of talking about before, at what point did you turn it around, that failure around for yourself? But that might not actually be the journey every time. Maybe that journey instead is giving it up at that point. And at what point are you supposed to give it up? It's situational. It's what are you talking about, and what is that thing relating to you? Is that something that you can continue to keep giving energy towards and have a positive outcome on? Or can you realistically never do that and keep putting energy into it, but still never getting the return on investment? That's something that's kind of individual. It's like, at what point have I put too much and not gotten my return? So then do I give it up or do I keep going? So it's like, it's a very individual and situational thing, which is the kind of same thing as success, because like success, we talk about success in the same breath. What is success? It's money, but not really. It's happiness, but not really. It's stability, but not really. It's all of those things, So it's like, what levels do they have?
That's what I think is like, success is temporary by nature, right? Like, I think there's
So is
ebbs and flow.
failure.
Wait.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying,
that's
right? Right?
So that's right. It's like where are you on the tipping of the scale?
I'm sorry, I was trying, Tamara. I was trying.
Okay, sorry, Tamara. You're not close enough to the microphone. That's why we can't hear you. Put your pretty little face next to this microphone.
Girl, just get in there and be like, shut up, y'all. I'm trying to talk.
Tamara, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I really liked what Julian just said. I keep wanting to call you Jacob. I don't know why, but what Julian was saying, because it made me think about the fact that I've always really admired people who were oblivious to like things that make me upset. So like, for instance, if a friend gets an attitude with me, like I would get upset with that. But I have friends right now that if somebody got attitude, they'll be like, oh, okay. Like they're unbothered. I've always admired people like that. And then I started thinking about moments where someone might have considered something I did as a failure, but I didn't see it that way. So like, for example, when I had to stop working, there were people who legit was like, I'm praying for you. And, because you have to take care of those kids. And I'm looking at them like, I'm at peace. I was stressed out trying to do all this stuff. I'm good. Or when I stepped out and decided to start my own business, stepped out on faith to do that. That was a scary thing, but there were people just like, oh, like, how are you going to, I'm good. Like, I never wanted to work a 9-to-5. I'm so happy that I'm my own boss now. Even when Cody and I got married, we were young. We were, and to me, it's not that young, but we were 23 when we got married. And people were like, oh, like, even my mom was like, y'all so young. My mama, you got married at 19, sis.
Okay.
Not.
Back then, when you got married, it came with a horse and a carriage and
Right.
So, like, for me, I was just kind of like, okay, well, people might have seen the fact that Cody and I had a baby. Our first year of marriage, we were parents, and people saw that as like, oh, like, what are you guys gonna do? And it's just like, we good over here, like we enjoying it. So it's just funny how, and then vice versa, the things that my mom deemed successful, I never forget. We were having a conversation, and we were talking about me possibly trying for another baby, and her concern was, well, I just think maybe y'all should wait and just, this and that. And I broke it down to her. I was like, Mom, you were more excited about me getting my master's degree than you are about me having a baby. And I said, that doesn't sit well with me. I said, because you deemed a master's degree as this big thing, but it didn't that didn't matter to me nearly as much as it mattered to me to have another baby. But it's funny how people might view your success. Like, people will be like, girl, you doing it, you got your business. And in my mind, I'm like, I could be doing so much better. But everybody views things, differently. I'm looking at the other mom, entrepreneur over here who's, everything is just wonderful. And I'm looking, obviously in comparison kills, right? But sorry, that wax done slid off that wire. But
Come on, mama.
Good Lord.
Or you need that wax
But,
on the end there.
Yeah.
So it's not cutting your lip.
Yeah.
Hey, so I do want to ask y'all a question just real quick, because this is we're wrapping up here because we're getting close on time. So this is where we actually do our final thoughts. I actually hate to cut it off now because we were actually just getting some traction. But I would love to get everyone's final thoughts on just the conversation as a whole. Like, when you talk about failure, fear of failure, overcoming fear of failure, allowing fear of failure to be a useful tool, a motivator, and how we as people in a community can assist others in not developing a fear of failure. Any of those topics? Mm-hmm. Who wants to go first?
As far as like what we can do in the community, I feel like it's really important to talk to kids, any kids in your life, about failure in general. They're not going to be able to prevent it, so it's definitely something that not necessarily got to be prepared for, but just have a better understanding of. That way, when it happens, they're not so like devastated by it. And I definitely think that you should check in on your peers and your coworkers, not even just your friends, but the people in your peer group who seem to be having a rough time with failure. I personally person got, didn't get promoted and they felt like they should have been promoted. Y'all might not be best friends, but hey, a kind word, you never know what's going on in somebody's head, and they need to talk about it and need to communicate with it. And it starts a conversation where now they have a better sense of failure. Maybe they can have a better conversation with their own family when they get home. So yeah, I just think having more conversations is important for this particular topic.
I agree.
I'm gonna piggyback on that one a little bit, just because we talk about success and failure, and then but it's just things that we should be talking about with our kids, and as far as success and failure goes, like what I would just say is the best thing to do is talk to those kids about it, but also just pay attention to who they are. Your kids will kind of present themselves to you as they grow, like their personalities and what their interests are, and like who they're going to be is just going like it's a big responsibility for parents. I understand, like they have enough on their plate and stuff, but really pay attention to this, because it's like you don't want to it's so easy to push our kids towards what we deem successful, but what they will actually be successful in is something that they have stake in. That's something that they want to do, and that's just something that we don't always positively support. We don't nurture that in our kids enough, I think, sometimes. And because we have our societal pressures and all those things, but like you're an adult now, you should realize that all those pressures are nothing in comparison. Push your kids to do what they want to do, things that they would like to do. Because so we didn't kind of get to it just because all the things that we were talking about, but like I'm kind of an artist at heart, but I stopped arting for a very, very long time because of a clash that I had with my parents about my art and stuff like that. So then I just put it away. And it's like, imagine and now that I'm picking up again and things like that, I can only imagine how much further I could have gone and how much more successful I could be right now with it if it's something that I had stuck with and I didn't feel shame for. So it's like really just pay attention to like who your kids are presenting themselves to be, and then just try and help them through that. Talk about failure, talk about success, just nurture who they are, and that's and all of those things will fall properly into place, I think.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else want to go next? Or should I pick Marlo?
I will say, like, with failure, though, it could be a few to success, though, impact, meaning because if you don't fail on the situation, it could be multiple times, be 5 times, but on that 6th time, that might be the clicker. So I'm just saying, to the young, I tell them never give up. Even a genius asks questions, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about a genius. He asks somebody a question. Because he a genius, but it's still something he want to know. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like, just never stop. Keep an open mind. Motivate yourself. I always look at this. What I do on a personal note. If I can wake up in the morning, guaranteed. If I can wake up in the morning, I'm gonna make tomorrow better than today. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna figure out, and that's how I go. You know what I'm saying? Because coming out the hospital, man, there's so many people. When Terry had to have a surgery, man, I went in there, man. I prayed for the whole hospital. I don't know the people in there, but the atmosphere I was walking in, man, it just, like I say, man, it's a lot dirty. My mind done changed, man, for the better. But everybody on the panel, man, all y'all winners. Even myself, we all winners, really, because we breathing, we maintaining. Like I said, some of y'all, man, and with your education, y'all done hit goals that our ancestors, everybody went on the panel. There's no losers. Everybody going through different things, but, y'all keep going, motivate each other. Like my man say, you motivate the young, keep going, the sky the limit for everybody.
Okay. Kiana?
Yeah, I think the thing I want to take away is very similar to Julian and Alex. It's just how we approach people in their moments of success or failure can reinforce what we feel about them. And that goes with beyond age. Certainly with children, because we want to get them while their minds are young and malleable. But I just think about, because I can be a tough person because of the level of expectation that was put on me. I know that sometimes I can have that same, perhaps at times, undue expectation on other people because I am pretty rough on myself. And just remembering, and I'm getting better at it as I get older, just like, how do you approach people in their moments of not being their best, right? Do you receive them with compassion, right? Just like Marlon said, I can get you out one time, right? It's just that compassion and that care, just in the same way where we celebrate their successes. And also be mindful of the success that we celebrate. Are we only celebrating the type of success that we think we should be seeing, right? Or are we celebrating the success that, and listening to what people define and then saying, I see you hit that milestone. That's like awesome, and I'm super proud of you. And if it, you know, if you're like, no, it's not big, I'm like, it is a big deal. And just reinforcing what we can and those really positive behaviors. I think the other thing, because, you know, I was going to leave you with an article, because I'd be reading it, the pandemic time. So there's a great article by Eric Agner, and it's called Epistemic Humility. And it's basically just the idea of like being humble to the fact that you don't know everything. Like, you can't walk into a situation where you think you know things, and you know good and god dang well you don't know anything. And I think in the same way that we approach like knowledge in that way, and this article is in regards to the pandemic. Basically, he's like, we got a lot of people walking around like they know anything about a novel coronavirus, and they don't know nothing. But y'all over here acting like it, and that's why people are dying, right? Like, and you know, that's a whole other rant. I think we do the same thing with people when we talk about success or failure, right? We walk around thinking that we understand what should be, what isn't, and we haven't humbled ourselves to the fact that we are individuals and our identity will show these things, and we really need to let people guide how we move and what our knowledge is and how we empathize and how we celebrate, or how we, you know, censure compassionately, perhaps, when the need arises for that second time. You know, what does that compassionate censure look like? And I think it's a really interesting thought to just apply, and I want to be better at it. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for saying that. Tamara?
I'm going to just keep it simple. I have a friend who always says her only competition is herself. And we all know, huh?
Did Beyonce say that?
No, I said,
your friend Beyonce?
She did say that. Oh, she does say that.
doesn't know. I don't pay a Beyonce. I'm talking about my friend.
Your friend Beyonce?
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, I'm sorry. She cool.
Right, go ahead.
So anyway, we do a lot of comparison, and I think sometimes we have deemed something as failure because we spent time comparing it to someone else. So if you do fail, allow it to be a failure because you want to be a better you, not because you're comparing yourself to someone else. That's my takeaway.
And that's very, very poignant that you say that. I'm very happy you said that, because that kind of sums up everything we've been talking about, this idea of letting failure fuel you. Yes, I failed, but I was failing at being better at me. And there's nothing else I'd rather fail at doing. So that will help you avoid all these pitfalls we talked about. Self-deprecation. No, I'm not a failure. I'm not a loser. I'm just hustling to be a better me. I love what you just said. I'm befuddled. I don't even know what the hell I'm about to say. I guess my personal takeaway from this is it kind of what we were talking about, the compassion at the middle, how these things happen, the things that me and Tamara talked about happening to us. It is our job as people to make sure that we're taking care of each other, even on that kind of aspect. We need to teach people, children, everyone, it's okay to hit the ground, just get back up. You know what I'm saying? We need to be telling, because really America right now is in that position. We hit the ground. We're one of the slowest countries getting out of this pandemic, and we got these riots going on, but we can move forward from this. Not as just a Black nation, not a POC nation, but as a nation of individuals who are taking care of each other, thinking about the elderly because we know this disease hurts them more, thinking about the children because we know they need to be nurtured out of being afraid of failure. Am I putting this too much pressure on this kid to make straight A's when he clearly is not the kind of kid that's going to be academic? You know what I'm saying? Am I giving him complexes because I keep yelling him about not getting A's, even though I see him in his room every day working his hardest and he's still not getting A's? Maybe it's not his fault. Maybe it's just not his thing. We need to be more cognizant of our interactions with one another and how they contribute to the betterment of each other and not the antithesis of that statement, right? So that's really my final takeaway. Of course, I want to thank each and every one of you all for being here and donating your time and your wonderful opinions. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, I love having you.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh yeah, I'm always, I am your God. Thank you for joining us for Talk It Out, where we talk it out. Remembering, this is a space where you keep in mind that it's not always about being right or wrong. Sometimes it's just about listening and being heard. Thank you.